Hi, my name is Megan Martinez, and I am currently enrolled in SPCE 689, Section 810 with Professor Savage. Today is October 26, 2025, and I'm going to begin by shuffling my deck of cards 3 times and splitting it down the middle. 1, 2, 3, split down the middle. I'm going to be holding the cards so that the definition's facing me, terms facing the camera. I have a 1-minute timer set on my phone already. And with all that being said, I'm going to get started right now. Selected behaviors are observable and measurable. Behavioral. Observation of behavior is objective. Empiricism. Reinforcement that occurs via another person. Socially mediated reinforcement. Motivating operation in which an individual is given access to a reinforcer, decreasing the reinforcer's effectiveness. Abolishing operation. Unit of verbal behavior where a response is functionally related to the variables that control it. Verbal operant. Selected behaviors are socially significant. Applied. Behavior that, when acquired, opens up access to entirely new environments and contingencies of reinforcement. Pass. Skills occur outside of the training setting or beyond the trained response. Generalizable. Complete and concise description of behavior change procedures for replication. Technological. Okay, perfect. So that's my time. And I'm going to continue on through the deck. Refers to the process of eliminating the association or pairing between a condition motivating operation and its previously established motivating properties. Pass. Secondary verbal operant that modifies the effects of primary verbal behavior on the listener, essentially providing additional information about the speaker's intent or certainty regarding their statement, thus influencing how the listener interprets the primary verbal response. Autoclitic. Someone who provides reinforcement for a speaker's verbal behavior, audience or verbal community. Response evoked by a particular object or event or property of an object or event. Tact. This verbal operant has point-to-point correspondence, no formal similarity, and immediately follows a verbal stimulus. Codex. An elementary verbal operant involving a response of any form that is evoked by an MO and followed by specific reinforcement. Mand. 2 events shown to covary over repeated observations allows for estimations to be made about the future occurrence of those events. Prediction. Verbal operant has point-to-point correspondence, formal similarity, and immediately follows a verbal stimulus. The response is the same sense mode as the model. Pass. Private, unobservable to a third party. Private or covert behavior. Scientists first consider the most logical and simple explanations for a phenomenon. Parsimony. Quantifiable and observable events that are compared with the known facts to form hypotheses. Description. Verbal operant has no point-to-point correspondence or formal similarity. It immediately follows a verbal stimulus and produces generalized condition reinforcement. Intraverbal. Treatment decisions are made based upon data demonstrating functional relationships. Analytic. Defined as the philosophy of behavioral science, which focuses on understanding behavior through the lenses of environmental influences, primarily through the principles of conditioning, reinforcement, and punishment, where behavior is shaped by its consequences in the stimuli presented in the environment. Behaviorism. Universe is lawful, orderly, not accidental. Determinism. Describes a situation in which a controlling variable evokes a response, but there is no point-to-point correspondence between the controlling variable and the response. Pass. Motivating operation that increases the effectiveness of some stimulus, object, or event as a reinforcer. Establishing operation. Refers to a situation where a single behavior is influenced by more than one variable. Pass. The use of related stimuli samples during instruction to increase a person's ability to respond to novel untrained stimuli. Multiple exemplar training. Decrease in the current frequency of behavior that has been reinforced by some stimulus, object, or event whose reinforcing effectiveness depends on the same motivating operation. Abative effect. Branch of behavior analysis which involves research and experiments. Experimental analysis of behavior. Observable to others. Public or overt events. Philosophical approach within behavior analysis that focus solely on observable external behaviors, excluding internal states like thoughts and feelings as a means to study and understand behavior. Methodological behaviorism. The literature supports the use of interventions and procedures that are derived from the principles of behavior. Pass. Scientific approach to understanding and changing behavior by systematically identifying the environmental factors that influence a person's behavior, actions with the goal of improving socially significant behaviors through the manipulation of these factors in real-world settings. Pass. Increase in the current frequency of behavior that has been reinforced by some stimulus, object, or event whose reinforcing effectiveness depends on the same motivating operations. Evocative effect. Demonstration of socially significant behavior change. Effective. Philosophical assumption underlying the science of behavior analysis that anything that evolves does so because of the consequences of behavior, meaning that behaviors that result in the positive consequences survive and produce more sophisticated repertoires. Pass. Concept in verbal behavior wherein the beginning, middle, and the end of the controlling stimulus content match the beginning, middle, and end of the verbal behavior content. Point-to-point correspondence. Refers to behavior that occurs more often in the presence of a stimulus than in its absence. Stimulus control. Behavior reinforced through social mediation. A listener is conditioned to provide reinforcement to the speaker. The term verbal is used to describe communicative behavior. The term vocal describes the use of vocal musculature to produce sounds. Verbal behavior. Group of responses with the same function. Response class. Functional aspect of an antecedent phenomena that demonstrates a change in the effectiveness of a stimuli as reinforcers and or alters the current frequency of behavior. Motivating operation. Physical energy change capable of affecting an organism's sensory receptors that has specific form or pattern, which as a unit has controlling effectiveness and is the result of verbal behavior. Verbal stimulus. Group of stimuli that share a common function, topography, or temporal relation and have a common effect on response class. Pass. Comprehensive philosophy of behaviorism developed by B.F. Skinner, which aims to understand all human behavior, including private events like thoughts and feelings, by explaining them in terms of their functional relationships with environmental factors, essentially viewing all behavior, both public and private, as shaped by the environment. Radical behaviorism. Concept in verbal behavior wherein the controlling stimulus and the verbal behavior have the same topographical sense, mode, or form. Formal similarity. Exists whenever a controlling variable evokes a response and there is point-to-point correspondence between the controlling variable and the response. Pass. Demonstration of a functional relation through the manipulation of an independent variable while observing changes in the dependent variable. Control. Refers to the influence a motivating operation has on the current frequency or likelihood of a behavior, causing it to increase or decrease depending on whether the motivating operation is establishing or abolishing the reinforcing value of the stimulus. Pass. And that's all my cards. Thank you for watching.